this unit, heading in to be the starter. Tyree's making progress. Drew's still out. Dominic Johnson, will be in the backup role, and Jamal Island in the emergency role.
Will Tyree practice this week, do you think?
Yeah, he's starting to do some things. Again, that's not up to me at this time. Today, we get more to the workload and the trainers, and kind of let him do. He's still a lot of rehab stuff with them, and we're definitely moving in the right direction. And as we all want is to get him out there. But again, his health and future are at the forefront of things.
Would you have a deadline if he was able to practice that he needs to hit a certain number of days or reps in order to play?
I don't know if I have a set deadline on that right now. It's a good question. Because it's we're approaching a month now, okay, and that's timing and everything like that. That's the part that's again is until we get that from doctors and trainers and that, where is that? Usually with players, we want them at least 2 of the 3 work days. It's kind of been our motto through the time since we've arrived. Okay, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday being those heavy work days, and what that consists of. Sometimes you get into the heat of the season of what that is, and and again, that's for timing purposes and everybody up front. So, but right now, getting Kyle more comfortable and doing those things is still going to be the important thing for us to do. And he had for his first start, did some good things, did some things that he's got to continue to work on. He very mature young man who wants to continue to get better and do some things, and we've got to do a better job around him. And around all our quarterbacks, running the football, getting balance, and getting us back to where we were a few weeks back.
You mentioned running the football. The numbers have gone down quite a bit the past 3 weeks, under 100 yards all 3. Are you worried at all about that?
Concerned, yeah. It is. There's running the football can be difficult in college football, and you look at some teams, but yeah, where we've been the last few weeks is very concerning right now. We've got to play better. I know our offensive line feels the same way. They've played better at times. It's been challenging. Things within the offense have been modified at times, and so we've got to look at ways to continue to find ways to generate yards, whether it be running or throwing, that we can get some more balance back into this offense. When you've gone through some of the things we have, though, these things aren't uncommon, and people are going to. Whether it be stack the box and do things and force you to do other things. Because of that makes it tough sledding in there some days. But it's a little. If it was one thing or one position or that would be easy, okay. And I say that many times. It's this on this play, could be a misread, could be whatever, and we've got to find a way to get better at that, and we are definitely working on that.
You mentioned the idea of possibly stacking the box, obviously with Van Treese. He's got a tough position that he's in. So how important is it to get that running game going, to get him more in a rhythm, get him more comfortable?
It is, and Emmanuel's, some of those games, Emmanuel, if you looked at, had quite a heavy workload too, and and that's kind of. We've tried to balance that out a little bit because he was banged up a little bit too, and in his pure effectiveness of what he brings to the table for us had been a little affected. I think if somebody watched us and watched him run, I think you'd go, I don't know if that's the same guy I saw week, whatever. Losing Jonathan Hawkins for the year is a deal. So, all those things kind of unfortunately play a small factor in our backfield where we're at. And so getting some things and a credit to defense, credit the athleticism of some of these groups that have confidence enough to place a man or do some things and get those guys around the box and challenge us to throw the football. And again, getting off to a good start, establishing some runs, and doing those things are going to alleviate some of those pressures.
I don't have a specific question here, but with the quarterback changes and the success you've had, just seems like you've leaned a lot on Jim Zabrowski, and he's brought a lot to what you guys have had to do the last few weeks. I don't know if you could just talk about his role and how much of you leaned on.
Leon, Jim a lot. Jim has done an outstanding job in first of all, the development and relationship aspect of our quarterbacks. I think our quarterbacks, they have increased their game. Working with Jim before and knowing what he was going to bring to our program has been better than I even thought. Just his personality and everything. But Jim was the first hire I ever made as a head coach. And so there's something about that I knew that he would add to our staff room. And again, there's a guy who's been a coordinator, coach at a Power 5 school, but Jim loves football. And he's not an ego guy, and he's not worried about titles and responsibilities, except he just loves coaching quarterbacks and coaching the game. Also, I have to credit Andy Koldnicki because, moving to another position, and then getting a staff on the same page. Our staff is more in sync than it ever has been on the offensive side of the ball, and I think that's why you see some of the things you've seen. It's also some of the production and explosiveness, the reason you've seen backup players emerge with productive games. All those things are a credit to those two guys as well as Rob Iannello, Alan Hensel, and Daryl Legpulsa. So that's part of it. And again, as we continue to build our program, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that when opportunity comes, that there's not a oh no moment or how are we going to be able to get this to work. And we've got to find guys. We've had, whether it be Jaquise Webb, Paul Nosworthy, other players, Skylar Hartley in the offensive line that have rotated, Zach LaFave making plays at tight end, and we've talked about the receivers. So I hope we start seeing, as we continue to move forward, the depth that we've slowly tried to create that I don't know if we've had these first 2 years prior to this.
Hey, Justin, you fit into that discussion a little bit in like you were one of those depth players last year, and you get your chance to move up into the starting lineup this year. Can you talk about how you approach that and kind of reflect a little bit on what this season's been like for you?
I just try to do my part to fit in with everybody else on the field. Like coming in and actually starting, I feel like I have to do my role to the T, you know what I mean, and just keep on keeping on. This season so far, we're just looking for a complete game, on all aspects, fire on all cylinders, all 4 quarters, not give the team the first quarter or the third quarter to really score and then come back second or fourth to really just shut it down.
I know you guys only think in terms of what game is coming up on Saturday, but you have 4 games left in this season. There are still some opportunities to reach some of the goals that I'm sure you guys set at the beginning of the year. What's the mindset of the guys on this team kind of going into this stretch of the season here?
Just got to take one game at a time, win one game at a time, and eventually when we win all 4, then we'll see how everything plays out from there.
Coach smiled when you gave that answer, so you're all right there. You're good to go with that. How much pride do you take in what Khalil Hodge has been able to do in leading the country in tackles? He always praises you guys up front for allowing him to do that. It may not be your name at the top of that list, but do you feel a little pride in what he's been able to do?
Yeah, just open the gap for Khalil. He'll make the play.
Coach, when we were talking about the running game a little bit, kind of look towards next week, when you're facing a team that has really struggled stopping teams from running the ball, especially the last 2 weeks. Like they gave up 303 yards on the ground to Eastern Michigan last week. So do you think that poses an opportunity there, maybe jumpstart that group?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, it's, when you're playing teams that run the ball very well as well, it's all going to be how you match up, and I think we talked about statistics last week, but they do tell some things, and again, we have got to find a way. You can't go back and reinvent yourself right now at this time of the year. You're partially, we're committed to our schemes and what we're doing and the reps that have been invested to run them, okay? And they've shown that they have worked, okay? But in the chess match of football and coaching, you've got to be able to have answers and try to find a way to do it, and getting ourselves in a position to be more more productive and steady. There's got to be the key, and you know, we're, like I say, I think we have a good plan going in to address that this week. And sometimes, as we talk to the running backs, there's some dirty yards in there too. We got to fight and keep churning, and we got to make what has been these 2-yard gains. We got to make them 3 and 4s, by fighting and seeing and but still securing the football. We've got to find a way to do it, and sometimes that may not be a score, but it might be one more first down. And then if you do punt the ball, it's going to help in the field position game. All those things that got to play a part. We've got to find a way to make that happen. And when you go through again, not to stay off the injury thing, but when you're playing different guys, your margin of error becomes less, even though you may have more of them. If as odd as that sounds, you got to be able to execute, and you've got to keep finding a way, even though you're trying to work other guys into it. So that's sometimes where it gets a little bumpy, and that's where it's been for us here of late. And but when we step in, and he's hearing me say stuff right now that I don't talk about to our team. We're not going to make excuses. We're not going to talk about. We just got to find that, okay, you're asking the question. Those are kind of fact. Now, when we go step on the field this afternoon, we've got to find a way to execute that better. There's no doubt about it, because I don't want to stand in here next week or whatever and talk about another game where we're inefficient running the football.
Kyle Deween, I think I read, was named midseason watch list for the Ray Guy Award. Mm-hmm. That's a funny thing, probably the more you punt, maybe you're not playing that good on offense. But how much has he helped you guys?
Yeah. Oh, well, first of all, yeah, that's a punter. That's the one guy you want that never should earn his letter. Okay, that's the one guy. He shouldn't earn a scholarship, shouldn't earn any of that unless it's practice-wise. Kyle's been a great addition to our program in a lot of ways. His personality is, he's a humble guy, but he's got a great personality. He's a guy that's looked at as a leader in our program, which is unique again because punters and kickers are kind of off in their own segments sometimes. But what he's done, and I don't have all those figures. Again, I don't know if it's necessarily the amount of punts. I think it was his production there in about a month's time. And we talk about that Western Michigan game. When you talk about a guy that that I'd seen has been a mid-season All-American kick returner, and we didn't allow him to get a punt return. And we did and that was him, and that's the credit to him, and that to me is why he should be on that list. And we've changed our punt protection this year from what we've done the first 2 years, and we've also asked him to rugby punt and do some things that he had done prior to coming to us, but we put a little more on his plate. We've asked him to do a lot, and for him to be that in that type of company is very worthy.
Akron has kind of their Khalil Hodge player who's number 2 in the MAC in tackles, leads their team in tackles by 30 or 40 in the linebacker Gilbert. Can you talk a little bit about how disruptive he can be?
Yeah, he's a very good player. I think is he one of the top in tackles for loss too. I think possibly he's an excellent football player. I think if you look in our short time being here and the defenses that Chuck Amato, their defensive coordinator, known from his Florida State days as well as being the head coach at North Carolina State, is an excellent defensive mind. And I think when you look at their middle backers as well over the years, they've always been near the top. They've always had a good one. They recruit that position well, and they develop a scheme that allows him to be very effective in many ways. So, again, for people wanting to watch group of 5 football early on a Saturday morning, you're going to see 2 really good middle linebackers. I think take it, and for us to be able to control him and get movement up front is going to be very important.
How much or in what ways does it help you that you did beat them last year?
Well, confidence-wise, I think again each year is differently as we know, but that kind of said out of this side. The other one is I know they weren't. If I'm correct, right? I think they had their injuries and things last year, and kind of I don't know if they won a game the rest of the year from that point on. And I'm sure that as we talk about, we know we can line up. But I think this group of guys know now, they've proven in these 8 games, they can line up with every team that was on our schedule up until this point. And the people that blew us out last year, we can go toe to toe for 60 and 60 plus with them. So that part is now their locker room. They're probably reminding them that, they had probably an uncharacteristic or flat performance against us, and they probably use that to their motivation. So once that thing's kicked off at 11:30, whatever, that none of that will matter. But I think in preparation and confidence, it shouldn't be anything overconfident though, because that's never been talked about.
Justin, you ever played in a game that kicked off before noon at all?
Once, yeah.
Yeah. Is that odd, strange? Do you care? Does it take any different kind of an adjustment?
Personally, I'm a morning person, so
You can
cool.
tell, right?
So you don't mind? That's not. It doesn't. That nothing phases you on that. Then.
Not at all.
Okay. Got it.
Anything else for Coach or Justin? All right, thanks. They're available for one-on-ones.
Made it.